I am here with Valerie Clark, who is one of our DPO Pro students, and we're going to talk a little bit about her experience in the program so that you might see if it is a good fit for you. So, welcome, Valerie. Thank you so much for being here. I really think this will be helpful for anyone, trying to see if it's a good fit or not. So,
Yep.
I'm curious to hear, what made you join DPO Pro in the first place? Like, how'd you find out about it, and what made you consider it?
Well, I think you'll probably be happy to hear how I finally ended up joining. I, well, as I told you, I had retired. I retired back in 2010, and my thing was, I'm going to organize all these photos.
Mhm.
Not only did I have mine, but well, I've taken a lot of photos.
Yeah.
And plus, I've had photos from my parents that I haven't even begun to organize those yet. Forget that. It's just really just doing my photos. And we have such a big family. And so my thing was, I am going to organize these photos so that I can use them. So I was really struggling with how to organize them because my mind works in a way where I can overthink things. So
Hmm.
I can try to over organize, which takes too much time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my mind works, which I thought was in a way of like chronological. I'm really good with dates. And so I started looking up how to organize your photos and, eventually ended up going to a few um, online courses like for Lightroom because I
Okay.
felt like that was going to be the
Yeah.
end all be all. And a friend of mine, my daughter's friend actually, she's into photography and she was saying, forget Apple Photos, do Lightroom.
Hmm.
You're going to love it so much better.
Hmm.
So my mind was bent on, I'm going to do, Lightroom.
Hmm.
And I spent money on online courses. Most of them were just video courses, not interactive,
Right. Right.
given by photographers who were really directing the courses more towards more serious photographers than myself
Right.
or professional photographers. So
Yeah.
there was a lot of information there that I really didn't need or didn't apply to me, which I didn't realize until I always had these high hopes for the courses and was disappointed. I even took a couple of courses at a local camera store on Lightroom. And there I thought, but it was the same thing. It really was. It was, a lot of it didn't apply to me for what I was looking for. I wanted to organize my photos so that I could use them and
Right.
share them with my family. So
Right.
once again, I was one night sitting up looking online how to organize your photos. I was really looking for I want to say a system almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I came upon a blog of yours. I
Okay.
don't know how I came upon it, but I came upon it. And it was in that one blog, I got more information
Oh.
about how to organize. You had, you was saying how you can organize by time, you
Yeah.
can organize by event. You had examples up there. And I was like, this is just exactly what I'm looking for. And just from that one blog, it was kind of starting to put me on the right track and I was starting to think differently.
Mm.
So then I went to your website
Hmm.
where, I was reading about the different, tiers of the DPO Pro and decided to go to for the VIP because I felt really everything that I needed and it had the support that was going to make me successful.
Yeah.
So if I had just gotten just bought
The self-study part.
the
Yeah.
self study, I wouldn't have stayed with it. I mean, I would have, but what
It's
I
harder to
liked,
be accountable to yourself.
oh,
Yeah.
it is. And I had already done that with with the Lightroom,
Yeah.
you know, program. But this was different. But the thing about your program, I felt was when I looked at at the different tiers, everything that was included, the main thing to me was uh, the coaching calls, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
the online support, and really the fact that it was interactive. You
Yeah.
know, I need that.
Yeah.
So I decided, and I have to tell you, it was a value. I thought for a whole year, for everything you were getting, all your videos, all your resources,
Yeah.
all the things you could, unbelievable.
A lot.
And it really is, it's a good deal. It
A
really
good thing.
is
Absolutely.
really a good deal. So that's why I joined. And I have to, I have to tell you that it really has been such an eye opener for me.
Mm.
I've learned so much. Things that I never understood before, I understand now. Or if I forget, I can go back and look it up,
Yeah.
you know? So that part, I mean, that's how I ended up finding you, was really through your blog. And I decided to go with that level because of the support that would
Yeah.
keep me on track, which is keeping me on track.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, the fact also that you give so many choices, like there's no one set way. So before I had heard, my friend was like, oh, you have to do Lightroom. That was one thing, a photo management program. But then I had a Scott Kelby course, and he was like, do not organize by time, chronological, organized by event. And I'm saying, well, that kind of makes sense too. They all make
That
sense.
makes sense. Yeah.
But what I didn't realize was, and what I've gotten from your course is, first of all, not one way is going to work. And what really defines it is how I'm going to use the photos.
Yeah.
And so I really need more than one way, which this course has showed me I can do that.
Absolutely.
And I found that is really, well, that's probably my aha moment too, when I
Yeah.
realized that I could do that. Um,
Yeah, it really is. Like I always liken it to driving, right? Because it's funny because I've had the same questions in other types of programs myself, and I find that it's the same answer everywhere. That, um, it really doesn't matter what kind of car you have. If you have a Hyundai, a Maserati, a Ferrari, whatever it might be, that's the program, basically. But you got to know how to drive. You have to know what you're looking for, and you have to understand what you need to know about the rules of the road in order to be able to do this. And I think that's where people go wrong. They get so hung up on, well, what do I pick? And this person says, well, you have to pick this. And this person says, well, you have to pick that. And that's
that's
where
right.
people start to freeze because they don't want to make the wrong choice. They don't want to make a mistake in that and have to do it all over again, right?
Exactly.
That's a
Exactly.
big thing I think that we offer that not everybody talks about is, we let you know what here are the popular good programs that are out there, and here's how they're similar, and here's how they're different, and this is what you might want to consider. And that was based on what we heard from people. When I first wrote it, that was one major point where people really got stuck and they got scared.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing that you do is, I'm a retired teacher. So what you do really takes into account, is what good teachers do, really. You take the student from where they are and you take them to where they need to be. You start with what they know and you gradually get them to the unknown, to learn the unknown, to get them to where they need to be. And your course is good for all levels,
Mhm.
coming in, no matter your technology level, or your photography level. And you have a beautiful blend of mixing the two. So, it can be overwhelming. This is what I find with Apple. I was telling Amy, I bought the first Mac that was out there back when.
Wow.
But now it's like, and when I was working, I could go to any workshop and I learned so much. But now that I'm not doing that, and they change so quickly. So
Yeah.
trying to keep up with photos, it was like I bought Aperture. I think the year after I bought it, they discontinued it. I'm like, really? So things just go, and then they went from iPhotos to photos, and that really messed up my whole photo system. That's why I have all these photos of all these albums of from iPhotos, and I had no idea what to do with it.
Yeah.
So, but back to your program, what you really do is um, you provide so much information. You could skip through what you don't need. I love that you do the Mac and the PC. So
Mhm.
anything that's PC, you don't have, it doesn't apply to you. Or even when it is in a video, when you're covering everything, you could skip over that part, So you do cover, you really do cover everything. I mean, there were so many things before that I didn't understand about um, the Apple Photos. I
Yeah.
didn't understand why you had to move the whole library. That I didn't understand that. But now I understand that the information doesn't go with it,
Yeah.
So, um, and how you explained the photo management, the programs, uh, all of them, and the pros and the cons, and why you would and what they do. It really is just anybody who has questions. If you're working on your own, you can always go back and find the resources. And if you have a question, you guys are always available, and you always get right back, and you always answer the questions.
Yes.
So I have to say, the only way that someone is not going to be successful in your course is if they don't want to be.
Yeah. If they don't do the work, actually.
If they don't do the work, if they don't, I got to tell you, I have a new puppy. It's like dog training. It really is. If you don't do the homework, you're not going to have a great dog.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that. That's just how life works, right? And
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think I think the sometimes we kind of get so caught up in, I don't know, the excitement of enrolling in a program. I feel like a lot of course creators, just like me, have that issue where a lot of people buy the courses, but then they don't actually jump in and do the work or try because they get overwhelmed. But you just have to get over that first hump and get going and knowing that it's okay to start over if you need to do that every now and then and just kind of just keep trying and not
Yes.
and not
Well,
stop.
your attitude and Amy too, people that you have, your staff, but you're so positive and you're very supportive,
Hmm.
which is what people need when you're doing this, because it's very, you've done it. It's
Hmm.
very overwhelming and very frustrating. And I have to tell you too, that story you told about losing that photo
Yeah.
of, that hooked me, because it was, first of all, it was such a personal story, but it was like, it was your reason for doing this, and you didn't ever want anybody else to have to go through that, and it was it was a personal share, but it got across the point that you really care about your students,
I really do.
why you're doing that. It's
I really,
very obvious. It
oh,
really is
good. I'm
very
glad that comes
obvious. Yeah.
across. Yeah. It really like the saddest thing that, you know, ever happens is when somebody calls and says, my backup just failed, or my program or my computer just crashed, or whatever. Can you help me get it back? It's so much harder to get it back after it's lost. Like sometimes we can pull out a miracle here or there and maybe recover or rescue something, but it is so much better to do this as a prevention. And sometimes it's hard to convey that prevention really is the key for a lot of this, especially with the digital, because, you know, it's not if, it's when.
Yes.
Crashes
Yes.
happen, things happen, and especially with the digital that's so intangible, you know, it's so easy for
Yes.
it to get lost. And
Yes.
it
Yep.
really, I just don't want anybody ever to go through that. Like if we can prevent it, that's
Yep.
what I want to do, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I will say your 3-2-1, that I've heard over and over again at different,
Yeah. From
a
meeting.
different place, because that just, and Backblaze is mentioned by
Oh yeah. It's a well-known
everyone.
practice.
It's, yeah, yeah. So your program really, I can't say enough about it. I tell everybody about it.
Oh, thank
Not
you.
everyone is into photos as much as I am, but I feel like your program has really put me on the right track, and um, it's a process. I've got all these photos, over 60,000 that I'm working with, not to mention the print ones, but it's, before it was like, oh my God, but this makes it all doable, doing it a step at a time. But What's more important, I think I'm the kind of person who I have to know exactly what I'm doing. Like when I buy a new car, I need to know what all the gadgets do, you
Yeah,
know.
right, right.
And in this program, in your program, you really do that. You explain everything. You know, there were things I would get messages in photos for, you know, the image was not full resolution or whatever, or with the difference between JPEG and HEIC and all that. I had no idea what any of that was. But in like 10 minutes, I learned it from your video, you know, and also what information is important, like to put on your, maybe to tag to your photos, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
it's all of that and explaining why. And you also say all the time, you know, well, maybe you don't need this, you
Hmm.
know, and then you kind of, no, I don't think I will. But there are other things that are like you hang on to every word because it's what you need, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you really do reach out to a lot of people without insulting their intelligence, so
Oh
to
yeah. I
speak.
would never want to do that. No.
No, but I mean, you put it in a way where it's not like baby steps, and it's not talking over your head. It's very clear and concise and logical.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And I'm glad that comes through. That is what I want. One thing that I really set out to do was to bring everything together in a comprehensive way where people who have a very basic level of understanding and maybe not being sure about what's a Mac and what's a PC and what's the difference. Like if you're at that level, that's totally fine. You've just never had experience with this before. So let's explain that then so we can, get going and get over some of those humps. But at the same time, I was just speaking to a pro yesterday who is in the course, and she was at a more advanced level, and she was able to learn things just fine as well. So it is. I feel like I've been successful in creating something where you can come in at any tech level and you're going to be fine. It's not going to be boring, and it's not going to be over your head equally.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And the fact, too, that you were a photographer.
Hmm.
So you bring a lot of knowledge with that.
And a family historian,
And a family historian, you
has
know.
that piece
So
of.
like before I joined this, I had in my mind what I was going to do with my photos. Kind of, I mean, I told you I do the greeting cards, and
Yeah, yeah.
that is the best thing. The problem is my family's so big, and March is the only month that there are no birthdays.
So you have time.
It's crazy. It is crazy. It's not just birthdays, it's anniversaries,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
everything.
yeah.
But, you know, so I was kind of, that was really my goal. I just want to be able to use it for the cards. And I thought, down the road, I'm going to do some family history and stuff. However, this has really opened a lot of doors to so many more things
Mm.
that I want to do with my photos, and which would require different ways of organizing them as well. You know, so that's why not just one way works, you know.
Yeah.
And it really is, it's such a great program. It's directed towards all different learning styles, all different levels of proficiency in technology and photography. Really, it's fabulous.
Thank you. I
I,
appreciate that. I really do. Yeah, I really feel strongly, a lot of people ask me that, like, why don't you teach just one specific program? And it's because programs come and go. We've seen that many times. Not all programs are available everywhere. And my job as an organizer is to simplify the process and make it the most efficient possible method for you. Like my job is not to overcomplicate and give you something that you're never going to use. Like my job is to figure out who are you? How do you like to work with your photos? How can we make this as simple as possible for you? And that really depends on who you are. It has to be customized. Any good organizing system, I feel like, is customized and tailored to the person using it so that they actually get use out of it. Because otherwise, it's working against the grain. And if people don't understand it, or if it's too much of a learning curve, or if they feel like it's not quite what I'm looking for, it's just not going to get used. And then
No, it's
our
not.
one.
No,
Yeah.
no. And that's, I mean, that's my experience with Lightroom because my daughter's friend was so, that was her thing, you know, she loved Lightroom. And
A great program. It's a high
it,
learning curve.
well, and that's why I didn't, I'm still subscribing to it, you
Yeah.
know, because I feel like, which I'll talk to you about later, I guess, that maybe I will need
Yeah.
it at some point. But, and I have over 50,000 photos on there that she put on there for me already, you
Yeah.
know. But the fact that you're able to, like you're saying, some things are just a little bit too complicated. And if there is that learning curve, like Lightroom was, you're not going to use it. But the way after watching your video about the, you know, the different PMPs, I thought, oh, maybe Lightroom might be better for me, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I didn't really understand the difference. And even when I went to, you know, a few of the camera stores and they did you know, their little lessons on Lightroom, I could never understand the concept.
Yeah.
Now I get it more. I get it more that I kind of think of Lightroom as like the card catalog in a library.
Yeah.
And your pictures are the card catalog. And it's like, I couldn't understand how come it can't find the pictures if they're moved, which I did,
That's a great way.
because it's if you move the book without putting the entry in the card catalog, you're never going to find it.
That's right. Yeah, that's a great way of describing it. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think it's important to understand for anybody who's listening to this that there's more than one learning curve that we're doing here, right? Because first we're
yes,
learning the process for how to organize photos, which is a standard workflow that's very universal. And then you're also learning, you know, your program and what you need to do in your program. So there's two different learning curves here that
yeah,
you're tackling. And so, especially for you, I remember we were talking about this. It's like, let's tackle one learning curve at a time. First, let's
yes,
process. And then if you want to switch programs later on, you're welcome to do that. But then you know what you're doing when you're switching, you know?
right,
So it makes
yes,
it easier and less overwhelming. And
yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. So if you were talking to somebody and they were kind of wondering, like, is this for me? What would you say, do you think?
I, what I would say is, it is, I've got a lot of life experience. And I have to say that this is really, I would say, one of the best programs that I've ever come across. And the reason being is because of the level of support.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the community is a great feature of it. I love when you're doing you know, the chats like we're going to have this afternoon, the
Yeah.
coaching calls, how people are texting you on the side, you know, with their comments, which is all very helpful. And being part of a community, you know, it's like in classroom learning. Someone has the same question you do, and they get to ask it first, and you get the answer. So having a community, having the people working for you that do, plus your accessibility and availability, um, plus the content, there's no reason that you can't be successful. You know, I would highly recommend it to anybody, um, because once you get started, it's very self-motivating.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you really do. I'm sure a lot of people do when they first get on board, go through all your videos, kind of not quickly, but they go through them just to kind of get a grasp of it. And even then, you're like, oh my gosh, you find out all these things you didn't realize, and then you go back more in depth, and that's when you're skipping what you might not need, and then you have those resources on the bottom. There are so many resources for so many different scenarios and needs. There is, I feel like there's almost no question that goes unanswered. And the other thing is that you keep updating constantly, like Amy just did that
Yeah.
Apple's deep dive into Apple Photos, which I was so grateful for because there was so many different things. And the other thing that you said before about you tell the pros and the cons, and she did, is that Apple isn't always what they say they are or what they're going to do. It's not as good as they portray
They
sometimes.
make a lot of updates all the
Yes,
time. And
yes,
sometimes
they do.
they might not think through every scenario, even, despite their best efforts. Yeah. So,
Well, that's it. And
yes,
even it was kind of comforting to hear Amy say that, it doesn't always work as they say it will. Maybe it will one day.
eventually it does,
Yeah.
but
But
not right at the
when
beginning.
you need it, then that's not helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's hard too for all these programmers, who are sitting and kind of, I guess, working in silos and not necessarily hearing from the people on what they're using things for or how people would like things. I mean, I can't speak to it because I don't work for any of them, but you know what I mean? I think it's hard sometimes to imagine scenarios, whether I feel like we in our community have the finger on the pulse of what scenarios are going on and what people are trying to use things for. So we talk more about those things.
Exactly, exactly. And that's the other thing about your program is that it's really everybody who joins your program has the common goal that they want to use their pictures
Yeah,
for
exactly.
something, you
Something.
know.
Yeah,
Those different uses, are what are going to define how the pictures are organized and what programs they're going to use. But everyone has the same desire to use the pictures, and everyone has the common goal of wanting to get them organized so that they can use them.
yeah, yeah.
And you certainly do provide all the information that people need to do that. And that is what is so great about your program. And again, it's a great value.
It is. It's funny, and I appreciate you saying that and seeing that because, if you look at other courses out there, for whatever program or, a lot of them are priced much lower. And mine is priced quite high in the industry, but I feel like it's an incredible value for what we offer and the level of support you get. Because if you imagine what it would be like to work with somebody for a full year, basically one-on-one, this is obviously not that quite that level, right? But you do get very interactive content and meetings and all the resources and all of that. I really do feel like it's priced fairly. I really
It really is.
so
It
yeah,
is because when you think if you spend $50 on this video and $100 on this whatever, it adds up. And here you have that plus more, plus person to person interaction and support,
yeah.
and people that answer your questions. You're knowledgeable, extremely knowledgeable, and you keep up on everything. And actually, I don't know how you do it, but you're an
There's
organizer, so I
there's a
guess
reason
that's
it's a
why you do
full-time
it.
job. Yeah, it's a lot. And that's why I have, some extra coaches in there and all of that. And I think between us all, we keep updated pretty well, I want to say, and
Yes, you do.
there's always a new scenario, and every now and then there's a scenario that we've never seen before, and that's okay. You can't possibly know everything that's out there, but I think we've seen most things at this point, and we try very hard, I think, to solve all scenarios for the better, no matter what somebody comes in with. So, yeah, it's interesting too, because in the coaching calls, we often find that we have a lot of what we call lurkers, which is like our cute way of saying, they attend the calls, but maybe they don't speak up for a few months. And that's
Yes,
totally
yes,
okay,
yes.
students who
Yeah.
kind of just jump in to see and check. And that's totally okay too. We have plenty of people who actually either can't show up to the calls or who show up, but they're maybe not on camera or don't speak up. But you still end up learning because you hear what everybody else is working on.
Yes, that's absolutely true. Plus, I think too, some of those lurkers will probably speak up. I think part of it is
Eventually.
that people are asking the questions that they want to ask,
Mhm.
and the fact that they keep coming back, so you know that
Yeah.
that is happening. Um, and probably maybe a level of confidence
Yeah.
as far as where they are in the process,
Yeah.
and sometimes people speaking that have been doing it for a while are talking like they know what they're doing because they do, thanks to you,
Yeah.
So for people that are just beginning or only have a little bit of time here and there,
Yeah.
but that's another great feature of your program is that, getting that, having those coaching calls and hearing what other people are doing. And
Well, as a
it,
former teacher, you know how valuable that is, to
yeah,
have that
yeah,
interaction and being able to talk things out because there might just be like a tiny nugget that you're missing. That is the key to sort of understanding the connection of what's going on.
yes,
I
yes,
feel like one good example is, high res versus low res. What's here and what's there. Which version do you have? Or like a file format thing. Or
yes,
yeah,
yeah,
there's so many small things that can trip you up, and
yes,
that
yes.
that can kind of sometimes be what prevents somebody from getting things done. And we don't want that. We want to get rid of all those issues right away.
Yeah, well, and you really did think that through because you, especially in your, in the course itself, you go through those things right in the beginning,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
it's important. You go through the basics and the fundamentals, which I learned so much in those first few lessons
Oh,
that I
good.
didn't know before and had an understanding. So at least I kind of knew what the difference was between, because I'm like, how come this is HEIC and that's JPEG? And
Yeah,
what the heck? But now
yeah.
I have a better understanding, which, and like you're saying, a little thing like that could just throw you over the edge
Oh, yeah.
because, you're not getting done what you want to get done and you don't know why.
Yeah.
So
It doesn't need to
it's,
be frustrating. We can figure it out, and
yes,
we figure it out together, I feel like with the community attitude of let's help everybody get moving and make the best out of this. Because we
yeah,
really do want people to get the photos back in their life. That's the whole point of this.
yes,
Organizing is a
yeah,
means to an end. And like I said the other day, like even if I love organizing, not everybody necessarily spends all their time on that.
right.
But the whole point of it is to actually get you to do something with your photos and enjoy them and not feel like they're scattered out there somewhere in cyberspace and you don't know how to access them. That's not.
that's that's it. And it's also that attitude that like a good teacher, people have different learning styles. People are at different yes, people are at different levels, but people also do have different learning styles, and your course is directed to every kind. And you're also, very accepting of, like you're saying, you're an organizer, you like to organize. Um, Not everybody has the time to do it like you can, but you're very open to people are at different places,
Mhm.
and which helps people realize, like I feel like it helped me realize you don't have to do it just one way, which I, as a teacher, knew when it came to a kid. But when it comes to me doing something like this, it's a whole different story.
Yeah. Well, I think it just shows that, you don't want to make a mistake. You want to do it the right way to begin with. The problem
Yes,
is if you ask 10 people what's the right way, you'll get 10 different answers.
exactly. And the bottom line is there is no right way. Just like there's no right way of teaching reading to a kid, there's no right way of doing it. One right way. Everybody learns in a different way.
Yeah. Just meeting
So,
where they're at basically and making it as simple from A to B as possible. So let's
yes.
get you there and let's get you working with this and have fun doing it, which I hope you do.
Ex- and you know what? That's the other thing because, you build on your success. And when you've done like a little piece, even successful, that motivates you to go on.
It
And
does.
that's what your course does.
Yeah. Yeah. I love small wins, small steps, and just getting
Yeah.
them rolling. That's a big part of what I teach is that,
Yes.
if you bite off more than you can chew, of course you're going to be overwhelmed. But we
Yeah.
don't do that here. We do little by little. And if you
Yeah.
have to watch a couple of minutes every day just for a few weeks, that's totally okay. If you know more and you can do more, great. But there's no, again, same thing with the course. There's no right, no wrong way to take the course as long as you do it, as long as you jump in, as long
Yeah.
as yeah. And
Yeah.
there's really no reason why people can't do this and be successful as long
No,
as
there
they
is
jump in
none.
and they're willing to
Yeah.
learn.
The
So
other thing that you have in your courses is the can I say, the downloads and the links,
Yeah.
because anything you mention, you always say, well, there's a link down there, or you can download this, file. And it's so extremely helpful, because then you're not looking all over the place for, how
Yeah.
do I find that?
Yeah,
You do
exactly.
answer the questions. So thank you, because this has been a game changer for me. It really has.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, and thank you for being in and actually doing the work and showing people that you can do this and, there's no set way to do it. And yeah, just being willing to learn and open to have fun with us because we really love it when students jump in and are eager and excited to learn and, and
Yeah.
ask questions. Because it's
Yeah.
hard for me as a teacher if they don't ask the questions. I'm not sure where they're at, you know?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
But
sorry, go ahead.
now I was just going to say, but for those people who don't like to ask questions in person, you certainly have the resources to email you,
Yeah,
and
exactly. Well, we have the community, we have the
you
email.
have the community, and it's
Yeah,
very supportive.
yeah. We try
And
as best possible. Yeah, there's plenty of ways to reach us, and we're always very responsive. So
you are. I don't know how you do it with your traveling and everything else that you do.
systems and operations.
Oh my gosh. I have to say, just in a quick note before talking about going from thing to thing,
Yeah.
the other night I was looking up something, and I was trying to organize my time, and then I came upon another blog that you had about your calendar and how you change your calendar. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, how does she have the time to do this?
Yeah, yeah. It's
And then I started, oh God, I started thinking, oh, I'm going to set up my calendar. I'm like, no, stop, go back to what you would do.
one thing at a
But
time. We'll get there.
you really are very successful
We
at what you do.
I'm an organizer. So
Yes.
when you're organized, it sure helps with managing life and all the stuff that comes at you. And yeah, a lot of what I teach is focused on, well, if we're organized, then we can do more because we don't spend time looking for stuff and we don't worry about things that we can't control and all of that. So I'm glad that comes across too.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's nice that you share, like in this blog I was reading, you were sharing your process. I think it was for this year. You were changing
Yeah, yeah.
you
I
gained three
just,
more hours or
yeah,
something. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I changed my hours exactly because, as a systems person, I'm always looking to see where I can tweak things to make things
Yeah.
run better, right? And I've realized that, yeah, when I shift my schedule ever so slightly, I do a lot better. So I just felt like sharing that, and I think just sharing and being transparent in how I do things is one of the ways I get joy out of this, and I think it's also helpful. That's how you and I met clearly, so it's working.
Right. Yes, it definitely is. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for doing this, jumping on this call. I think listening to this is going to be so helpful for anybody who is interested in joining DPO Pro, but maybe aren't sure what to expect. I always like to do these interviews just to get, people's reactions to what they've learned. And sometimes it's not always what I think. Sometimes I ask, what's your aha moment? And it's something totally different than what I would have guessed. So it's really interesting to hear from people. And yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this with me. So thank you. And I will see you later this afternoon
Yes.
for our DPO Pro call.
Yes. Yes. That's at 3 o'clock my time, I think.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank
Yep.
you again. And yeah, I think that's all for this video.
Oh, great. Thank you so much, Caroline.
Thank you.